Right, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I'm gonna start with you a new topic, right? I'm gonna start a new topic now, which is the last topic, right? Then the concluding part of module two, we're gonna watch it on the YouTube. Hello, please, quietly, ladies and gentlemen, let's move out quietly without constituting nuisance to others. Sit down quietly. I'm waiting for you to sit down quietly before we take off, right? Because once we take off, we don't want any other disturbance, right? I know you guys, you must have missed me, but I miss you too, right? So that is why I decided to come early, right? Yeah, because I cannot afford to leave my student behind, to miss my student too much. Quietly, don't drag your chair on the floor. Right. It makes a lot of noise. Listen, focus. Hello, focus. Right. The concluding part of module two, you can go to YouTube and watch that. Right. It's not something that is difficult. Right. So it's just about report writing and some statistical figures there that they were trying to explain. Right. Maybe I have to go to that before I come to this one. Okay. You can watch it on this thing. Watch it on YouTube. What is wrong there? Okay. Module 3, which is financial requirement of a new venture. Listen, financial requirement of a new venture. Let me tell you something. Look at me, Jonga. Hello, look at me. This topic, or this module, as you may call it if you like, is very, very important. This is the powerhouse, the heart of this subject that you are doing. Financial management, right? It's very, very important. Financial management or the financial requirement of a new venture, of a new business. Somebody can invest in your business, right? If you don't know how to manage the money, what is going to happen? It will go down the drain. And anything that goes down the drain, what happened to it? Get flushes away. Right? So to know how to manage money is very important. Right. And the main component that is holding this your course is this aspect. Others are stories, but this one is very important. Take it serious. Right? Most especially if you don't have much background in the calculation. The calculations we are going to do here, don't be panicked or don't get scared. They are simple calculations. All we need to know is to understand the concept and know where to apply the formulas. They got formulas, right? Yeah, you must listen. Once you listen to me when I'm teaching and you go home, you watch the video, I'm not I'm telling you that there is no way you're not gonna make it. Right. Okay. Module 3, financial requirement of a business. Right. Of course, a new business need money. Yeah. You need what we call startup costs, for example, startup costs. Startup costs. The money that you need to start up the business. You know, most people they got beautiful ideas. Younger, listen to me. Some people have got the most viable ideas in the world, right? They got the most appreciable characteristics or traits that you can ever use to qualify an entrepreneur. But they got one big problem for them to start their own business. What is that problem? Imali. Anai. Is that how you say it? Anai. I don't have money. Yeah, always a problem. You see, it's a sad story. Right. You need money to start a business. You need to buy equipment if you need to buy equipment. You need to buy your stock if you want to be selling stocks, or if you want to be selling articles, items, retail business, you buy, you sell. You need money to do that. You need money to run around. You need money to pay for rent. A lot of stuff. Right. So those are some of the stuff that we are going to discuss. And from here, you should be able to know how much to sell your items, your products. Because you got what we call cost price and selling price. We got what we call fixed cost and variable cost. We got what we call weighted average cost of capital. We got what we call gross profit. We got what we call profit. In all those terminologies, you are going to learn many more during the course of this module. Very interesting, right? Okay. Module 3. What are we going to cover here, or what are you going to learn? How to determine the income and expenditure of a new business. When I say new venture, I told you it means new business, right? How will you determine the income? What constitutes the income, by the way? For example, if you got a retail business, by now you know what I mean by a retail business, where you buy stock from wherever, perhaps from micro, wherever you're gonna buy it from game or whatever, then or from this Somalia, what do they call it? Bagit. They say this wholesale shops, I forgot the names now, owned by Somalians and Pakistani or Indians. Like you buy your stock, then you come home, right? When you sell those stock, because when you buy your stuff, you pay, money goes out of your business. Then that money needs to be replenished. That money needs to come back, right? Not only that money that you use to buy the stock, your expenses and whatever, and of course, you need to make profit. Younger, look at me. You need to make profit. Right. So you need to bid up that price in such a way that when you sell the product or your product, you can be able to generate income. So when you sell, the money that you receive constitute your income. If you are a retail business, depends on what you are doing. Right? If it is a service business, let's put it this way. Joga, a service business, you are a barber or you are a hairdresser. When somebody comes to you, of course, let's say you are a hairdresser, the person brings materials to you to be utilized. Sometimes you buy, they say, okay, you sell, they buy hairpiece from you, right? When you sell the hairpiece, you generate income. When you braid somebody's hair, you generate income, right? So that stream of income constitutes what we call it's an income, right? Now, when you combine the income generated over a certain period of time, that is why you can be able to generate income and expenditure. Expenditure means the money that you spend in order for you to be able to generate income, all those associated expenses in your business. Right. I want to buy stock. Let me say I'm a retail business. Right. I need to go to micro to buy stock. Even if micro is within my area, let's say micro is about 2 kilometers away, I need to take a transport. Or if I'm using my battery, I need to put petrol in my battery. So those things are part of the costs expense that one do expend. Then I buy the stuff, I bring it to the shop. Then in the shop, I need to pay rent and all those type of stuff, right? When you sell now, or when I sell, then I generate incomes, right? So you see now, expenses are being incurred before the income comes in. So when you put all those things together, the income and the expenses, or rather the expenditure, if you will, it constitutes what we call the income and the expenditure statement of such a business or such a business. Does it make sense to you? Do you understand it? You don't understand? Okay. See what I'm saying? Let's say you got a shop, right? What would you like to sell? Yourself. Come here, come and sit here. Perfume. Okay. You like to sell perfume, right? You like to sell what? Huh? Chips. Okay. Now you got a new business now, which is selling of chips, selling of perfume, right? That chips, are you going to make it by yourself? Okay. For you to make that chips, what do you need to buy? You buy potatoes, oil. Okay. Now you have to spend money to buy all those stuff. Then you're gonna write it down. Those things that you bought, right? Your perfume, you're gonna buy it where? Okay, let's say any place, right? Then you are going to take transport to that place. Then you buy, even if you run, you expended your energy, you ate food for you to be able to run to that place, right? That food, that money that you use to buy the food, to run to go and buy something, must be accounted for, because otherwise you could have gone to somewhere else and expend that energy, right? Does it make sense to what I'm trying to say? You don't understand? Okay. You don't, do you understand it? I said, perhaps you need to take transport to go and buy your perfume. How are you going to get the perfume? They're going to deliver to you. Okay, let's assume they deliver to you, but the delivery cost is already there. They put the cost there, right? So when you want to sell the perfume, okay, let's say you bought your perfume, how much? Let's say 150 or 50 rand a small bottle. How much do you think you can buy the perfume? Okay, let's say 20 rand, a small bottle, right? Okay, so part of your expenses now, let's say you are sitting at home, right? Okay, we have 20 rand that you use there to buy the perfume, right? Okay, now you are staying at home, maybe you have a shop, you need to pay for rent, right? So all those costs you need to write it down. Right? You, the money that you use to buy those your potatoes, oil, and everything, you write it down. Right? Okay. Now you need to sell for you to get your money back. You that bought perfume to sell, will you buy the perfume and display it in your room? You want to sell it, right? Why do you want to sell it? Because you want to get money back that you expended as well as profit. Because you cannot buy the perfume 20 rand and sell it to people 20 rand. You're not making anything. Okay. In the same way, you know how much it costs you now for you to make the chips. If you want to sell, you must make sure that the price at which you are selling those stuff, when you sold it, you should be able to cover your expenses, right? As well as your small profit, because you don't want to be doing business. You are selling chips. You just buy, you sell to other people, and you don't have money included as a profit, right? Okay, now you see what you say income. When you sell, money comes to you. We call it income, right? When you sell your perfume to other persons, we call it income because money is being generated into the business, right? Income can as well be called sales. sales. You can call it income, you can call it sales, you can call it revenue. Those three terms can be utilized or can be employed to qualify the same thing, right? Which is the money that is being generated into the business as a result of the business transaction, right? So we made typical example of a product. What if it's a service business, right? You are making hair. Let's assume that you don't sell the product. The person just come to you like a barber, then you sit, you make the hair. So whenever you make that person's hair, the person is gonna pay you, obviously. So what happened in that process? You are generating income into the business. Right? Perhaps the place you are doing the hair is a shop. You need to pay for the rent. Right? Perhaps it's not your house, you need to travel to that place. For example, like those people in Cape Town, they got expenses being incurred as a result of them doing that business to generate money, right? Okay. So what we are saying here is when you look at it, the income and expenditure of that, we know about the income. So whatever expenses they incurred to get to be able to generate that income is what we call expenditure. So the two goes together because when you put this two in a scale, you know what we mean in a scale, in a balance, then you can be able to know if you are paying more than what you are receiving. In other words, if what you are using to buy your product is more than the income that are being generated as a result of the sales of that product, you put it in a scale, right? So in some situations, you discover that the income is higher, right, than the expenditure, which means that you will be able to make profit, right? So if the income is less, your expenses is more, invariably it can transcend into a loss. So when you represent the income and expenditure in a kind of a statement, right, in a formalized way, let me put it that way, in representing the income and expenditure generated in a business, right, in a specific period of time, in a formalized way, in a format, right, that is what we call income and expenditure statement. Income and expenditure statement. There you can be able to see at the bottom or at the end whether you are making a profit or loss. Does it make sense to you? Do you understand now? Okay. Ask questions if you're there. No question. Guys, do you all understand it? You don't understand. You. Do you understand it? You sure? 100%. Then 2%. Okay. Do you understand it? Right? Do you understand it? Okay. That is very lovely. By the time we're gonna be doing a practical example, you will see what I'm saying. Don't worry about period is over. What made the period to be over? Because I was explaining detail to you. So you are not in position to tell me that the period is over. Yeah, listen. Let me explain this one before you go. Right? Then we need to determine the financial and cash flow statement. Oh, okay. The financial and cash flow requirements, sorry to say, of the new venture. Cash flow, how it works, right? As I said, when you go out to buy, money is going out, it's moving out. Then when you sell, money is coming in. So that movement is what we call cash flow, right? Then how to implement pricing and costing principle. So what we are trying to say now, pricing and costing. We got two concepts here. Costing principle. Costing has, for example, when you are buying your product, right? You need to pay money to buy those products. That is what is costing you, right? You need to be able to look for a good source, or you look not sources. You need to be able to look for a good source or sources, as the case may be, where you can be able to get your product at a very relatively cheap prices. Because if the cost of your product is high, invariably your price is gonna be high and your price will not be competitive, right? Then you should be able to price because we have cost price, which is the amount at which you pay for your product. Then you will have the selling price, of which you need to add your expenses and the profit margin to have the selling price. So we've got certain principles that needs to be practiced. We got like penetration price, we call it pricing strategies, right? We're going to discuss about those ones. Then identify the resources to obtain the startup capital, right? Startup capital is the money that is required for one to start a business, right? So let me stop here. So tomorrow we're going to talk more, right? All right, guys, let's continue. We've got no time to waste. Let's continue. Okay, so these are what we're going to discuss about. Can the new venture make money from its product choice, right? Product choice, product price, right? When you look at these things, it depends on what you are selling, right? Let me let me go here. What is this? I'm taking another book now. So what they are trying to depict here now, right? Product choice, product price, product costs. Guys, let's look at it. Let's try to provide a kind of synergies between these three concepts, right? Product cost is how much it you really pay to acquire the product that you are going to sell. Guys, listen. Your ability to make profit, right, from that specific type of product, it depends on the cost. Because if the cost of the product is high, right, and you need, remember, you still need to add your expenses. Now, when you add your expenses and you put your profit, the selling price will be higher, right? Perhaps it can come to a situation whereby your price will be more than the competitor's price. So if your price is more than the competitor's price, what is going to happen? And you are selling the same market, they're not going to buy from you. Does it make sense to you? So you see, for you to be able to make money, to make profit in selling a product or a certain particular product, it hinges on, first of all, the cost of the product. Do you understand what I mean? This is where the Chinese are overpowering. Chinese, they are becoming champions of the world, right? Because from here, product cost. Because the cost of manufacturing in China is very low. The cost of labor there is very low. People work, but they don't get good salaries. Right? So when you compare the cost of production in China to that of the United States or Europe in South Africa, is China become much competitive because the cost of production there is low. Because when you see a Chinese made product, you compare it with a South African made product or a product that is made in the US, the prices are not the same. You will see the price for that of Chinese product will be very ridiculous. They will say, no man, this thing, why is it so low like this? Because of cost of production, right? Then when the cost of production is low, it will make the product price to be cheap, right? Because you can be able to compete in the world market. And that can lead to many people buying the product. Is the period over now? Okay, let's stop here. But I like that we must, effectively utilize the time. We mustn't be rushing.